that. We got a lot of stuff going on. We're going to be talking with a good friend of ours who is on the line from way up in the Midwest, up in Omaha, Nebraska. It's Grant Merrill, my friend from InsideFortSmith.com, who's covering the College World Series. Good evening, my friend.
Hey, Sam, how are you? Glad to be on with you.
Not bad at all, and we're glad to have you back on. Grant is one of these guys that doesn't know if he wants to stay in radio or stay in the digital print business, but either way, he is still a sports nut. Probably worse than me.
Yeah, here's the problem. I get all excited wanting to buy another radio station, then I come home and tell my wife, and she reminds me that I'm in the online and digital business for a reason. So not that we don't love radio. We're just not getting back into it anytime soon. But we still do a lot of sports broadcasting and stuff like that for some different radio stations. And being up here covering the College World Series, we're doing some reports for people just like you, and it's this is a fun time of year. I mean, we're kind of at that time where everybody's starting to get ready for football, and SEC Media Day is coming up next year or next month, and
next year,
and next year, but right now, Arkansas fans, we're just delighted and tickled pink that we were able to make this run through the College World Series and end up getting to the finals. This is somewhere we haven't been since 1979 when the Razorbacks played Cal State Fullerton, and it didn't end up winning that. But this is something that Dave Van Horn has been after every year since I remember. I was actually at the press conference when Dave Van Horn was hired in 2002, and he said back then that winning a national championship and bringing that home to Fayetteville was a goal of his, and he's gotten close a couple of times, 2004, 2009, 2012, 2015, but finally 16 years later, he's finally in the finals.
Right. And I can go back to the days when I lived in Arkansas. Norm DeBryan was the head coach for the Razorback baseball team.
Oh, Lord, yes.
And you never really had to worry about Arkansas not being in Omaha or in what they call the super regionals now. But, I mean, Arkansas was always at the forefront in NCAA baseball action. But their opponent that they've got is like a sleeper that has came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and there's just so much off the field drama, I guess, with Oregon State right now. I mean, you've got tonight's starting pitcher who, we don't have to get into all of his personal problems. People can Google that for themselves because, I believe in giving the guy a second chance. But, from some of his previous legal problems, he's got a little bit of a cloud hanging over him, and I am sure that Arkansas fans will probably make him pay the penalty again with their heckling. That's just the type of baseball atmosphere we usually have at home when we're at Baum Stadium. But then Oregon State just kind of comes out of nowhere, and just look at the run that these two teams have had. I mean, Arkansas has gone unscathed through the entire College World Series. In years past, when we've gone up there in 04 or 09, we'd have to fight back through the losers bracket, and we might be gone by Thursday of the week or Tuesday of the week or whatever. 2012. We basically ultimately got screwed by home plate umpire Perry Costello, who I still totally blame for our loss to South Carolina because the guy couldn't see a strike zone if it hit him in the face. But I'm not bitter or anything, Sam. But
can't tell.
But yeah, I mean, and then you take a look. But now, what excitement do you have when you've got a team that has gone all the way with nary a blemish on their record through this College World Series? There's more excitement right now in the state of Arkansas for Razorback baseball than there has been in the whole time that I've followed the program.
Right. I've noticed on Facebook with a lot of my friends from high school there in Conway, where I grew up at, there are like so many Hog baseball fans I never knew that they were into. football and basketball, yeah, those are the two staple sports there in Arkansas. But it's like Hogs baseball is like really huge now, it seems like.
Well, it is, and it wasn't always that way. But in the early 2000s, you could go to a Razorback baseball game at George Cole Field in 1997, 1998, or years previous to that, and it might be 50% of the way full, and you had some diehards that like to go and travel, but mainly it was kind of like going to a smaller school. I mean, the diehard fans were usually the parents and the people that followed the team from there in Fayetteville, and it wasn't really a statewide thing. In 1996, 97, they started adding the baseball games to the statewide Razorback Sports Network. And a guy named Chuck Barrett, who you and I both know, was the voice of that program for many, many years. And when they did that, and they started bringing the games on radio across the state, the people really started to kind of step up and take notice. And then they built Baum Stadium and moved George Cole Field. If you've ever been to the University of Arkansas, George Cole Field was immediately south of Razorback Stadium. Razorback Stadium is built into a big hill on the north side of the campus.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they moved about a mile south from George Cole Field to an intersection that was across from a Tyson Foods plant, catty-cornered. And, they built a brand new state-of-the-art stadium. And when they did that, I mean, the atmosphere just went on a scale of 1 to 10 from about a 3 to about a 12.
Wow.
And so, in 2004, 2005, after that initial College World Series run in Dave Van Horn's second year, it really, it just poured gasoline on the fire. And, you've got people that have made a name for themselves following Razorback baseball. There's some fans that are just as popular as some of the players. One of them is a guy named Bobby Smittle, who you might have seen on the TV broadcast. He had a stare down and pointed at an ump for about 5 minutes straight during the ball game the other day. And, all of a sudden he's become the most famous man in Arkansas because the ESPN cameras were getting on him. And, he's been a good friend of mine for many years, but his Facebook has been inundated up here in Omaha with people taking pictures of themselves with him, and they're all pointing at the camera like he did at that umpire. But the only reason he did that was because he told me after it happened, he said, "Look, I was just tired of this umpire taking over this baseball game, and I wanted people to know what the problem was." And he's one of these guys that heckles the umpire. He doesn't use profanity. He doesn't do those things, but it's people like that that have a style all of their own. Every school has these fans that kind of get popular, but Razorback baseball seems to have a lot more of them, and it's just been so much fun to be a part of all these years. I've been following Razorback baseball since 2003, and in 15 years of it, there's never been a real letdown.
Now you got me wondering, since you mentioned this, what are they doing, or what have they done with George Cole Field?
Softball. They did softball there for a while, and then they built their own softball park, and they have one called Bogle Field that's on the other side of the campus, and now they've done. I think they're in the process of building some dorms and stuff like that. The makeup of the University of Arkansas campus is totally different than it was. They've also got a track facility up there.
Yeah.
That they've built near the George Cole Field where it was. So, I mean, because Arkansas actually has more national championships than just about any school in the country because of John McDonald's reign as the field coach.
Yeah, and that's both indoors as well as outdoors as well. But
yeah.
Now, how big is this for Arkansas being in the NCAA College World Series representing the SEC? The SEC really hasn't been a well-known baseball conference. Arkansas, since they've joined, they've added their presence in there, but this typically is not a predominant conference.
Well, I think that the tables kind of turned on that. I mean, you know, you take a look at what Florida did. I mean, Arkansas beat Florida to get into the College World Series finals. You take a look at South Carolina. I mean, they've been a pretty perennial contender in the College World Series year after year. And I mean, it was Arkansas and South Carolina in 2012 that, you know, that it ended up being the deciding factor. Gamecocks went on and then went on to win the finals that year. You've got Mississippi State. I mean, you know, what an atmosphere it would be tonight if Mississippi State had actually won that game over Oregon State over the weekend. I mean, that was one thing that we as Arkansas fans were really worried about in getting up here, was the fact that, you know, if Mississippi State had won, there weren't going to be any tickets left for all the Arkansas fans that wanted to come up once they made the finals. And because, you know, when you really think about it, if you want to go to the College World Series, I mean, that's going to be probably a $5,000 trip if you take your family and you follow a team all week. Because first of all, the hotels in Omaha just jack up the rates tremendously.
Oh yeah.
If you want to stay at the Marriott downtown, this could be $700-800 a night, or that's at least what it used to be. Every time I've ever gone up here, we've had to get hotel rooms in Lincoln and drive 45 minutes. I mean, you know,
that's not bad of a trip.
Well, I mean, it's like driving into Chattanooga from Rome, Georgia, or something.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, you do that, and you go up and basically live in Omaha for a week. It's kind of an expensive trip. Well, now you've got Razorbacks in the finals, and basically everybody I know has made the trip this week. So
yeah.
It's going to be like a Razorback home game through the rest of the evening. And, you know, when Mississippi State got beat, that opened up a lot of tickets that we weren't sure were going to be available or not. So
I can remember back in 1980, I went with my mother. We traveled by Greyhound bus up to Omaha. My aunt lived up there, one of my older aunts and my mom, and went up there, and it was like going to the Little League World Series back then.
Right.
And, you know, my mom and my aunt, they both went to Exarban, which was the former horse track that they had there with Nebraska spelled backwards.
Oh,
yeah. And they have another track somewhere else, but down the road a little ways was the College World Series at Rosenblatt Stadium. I don't even know if it's still Rosenblatt Stadium anymore. But
no, Rosenblatt Stadium was torn down to make a parking lot for the zoo. So,
well,
I mean, yeah, let's tear down all this baseball history so people can park to go see spotted zebras and elephants.
Yes. You know, but it was a fun time. I got into trouble because I found a pair of twins, sisters that were my age, which was 14 at that time. And I didn't do anything wrong per se, but these twins were the police chief's daughters. And it was like, yeah, all right. So my mom had to meet up with the police chief, and it was like I got to go to about 3 or 4 days of the College World Series, caught a home run ball. Arizona State was in it that year, and Stanford and a couple other, you know, I believe it was Arizona State and Stanford that were in it. And it was like, it was fun to watch, but, you know, when you go to the College World Series, you know, you're a teenager. It's like, yeah, you're out there scouting things out.
Well, you know, these poor little girls from Nebraska had probably never been around a gentleman with a Southern accent, and they probably couldn't help themselves.
And especially a Razorback at that. But
well, yeah, I mean, here comes Dapper Sam Jordan rolling into Omaha, and they, you know, all of a sudden he's got him 2 girlfriends that just happen to be the daughter of the long arm of the law. I could see that from a mile away.
Thanks, Grant. You got my sports guy back here and rolling in tears, laughing. But anyway, but the College World Series does, I mean, at least when it was at Rosenblatt, kind of reminding you of the Little League World Series, if you've ever been. Just very quaint.
Yeah.
You know, tickets were easy to come by, but it's like now, with the College World Series, you know, it's a big ticket item. I mean, it's almost not quite as expensive as what football or basketball would be, but it's getting up there.
It is getting up there. I mean, tickets, I think tonight, you know, they've got different levels of tickets. And see, that's the one thing about it. They built, when they tore down Rosenblatt Stadium in 2012, they built TD Ameritrade Ballpark downtown, and it's right there in downtown, and it's every bit as nice as any major league stadium you've ever been to. And obviously, they're paying for this thing. I mean, you can get general admission tickets, and the way that works is you pay $9 or whatever, but you're not guaranteed a seat, I don't believe, and you have to wait in line for several hours before the game. But when we were coming up here Friday, we were starting to take a look at what the tickets were running on StubHub, and I mean, if you wanted to sit behind home plate, getting on StubHub and Prime Sports, I mean, they were asking $300, $400 a piece in some cases.
Wow.
And that was for one game. And, there was a lot of folks who were looking at that going, oh my God, there's no way.
Yeah.
But we a lot of folks have made the trip, and they found their ways to get in. But TD Ameritrade Ballpark's a very nice place, very good place to play baseball. The one problem that we've had with this whole College World Series, though, is that the dadgum weather forecast just won't cooperate. Every time you blink, there's another thunderstorm rolling in, and
right.
I mean, it's been this way in Omaha, since Adam and Eve roamed the earth.
Oh yeah.
And I've always wondered why they might not have considered doing some type of retractable roof on that stadium. But I mean, you would think they could just go down the street and borrow the money from Warren Buffett. He lives there,
right?
But that's the one thing that just kind of irks everybody about the College World Series. And I'm sure it's not easy for the NCAA either. When you're having to delay games by days at a time, and like with last night, especially with social media these days, of course, how we Arkansas fans are. Everything's a conspiracy theory. By the time that they do, they call a game and everybody's thinking that it's a grand conspiracy to give Oregon State's pitchers another night to warm up. But they. I don't envy being the tournament director of the College World Series because of the weather. I've been down to games at Florida State, in Tallahassee. It rains every afternoon at 3:00. I mean, it's almost been like that in Omaha these past few days with the severe thunderstorms that have been rolling through. So.
Right. In fact, right now, while you've said that, I want to remind our listeners out there, a severe thunderstorm warning for most of southeastern Tennessee, including Hamilton County, Marion, Ray, and many others that are surrounding the Chattanooga area. So if you need to, take appropriate cover if the weather situation gets a little bit worse. But yes, you are right, Grant Merrill from inside Fort Smith.
On the CARB weather radar map.
Yes. And yeah, that's very true. And it's like, hopefully the weather doesn't get as bad as what it was Saturday. You haven't heard this, but we were down there for the Chattanooga Waterfront Triathlon, and they were having their expo day on Saturday. Sunday was the actual triathlon day where I was riding a bike on the course, broadcasting live and stuff. But on Saturday afternoon, we're holding up for dear life, trying to save canopies. We lost one in the process because it was like typhoons, monsoon weather that just all of a sudden happened. And it's like I'm saying, oh, somebody cover my equipment. But fortunately, none of it got messed up. It dried out and was able to use it on Sunday with the live broadcast and stuff. But yeah, we lost a brand new canopy, never been used before. And it was quite adventurous. In 38 years, I have never experienced anything like that with doing a live broadcast anywhere. Yeah.
Next year, if you do this triathlon thing, I will go on ahead and commit to sponsoring it if we mount a GoPro on your head so that we can watch your progress through this triathlon from your eyes.
Well, here's the thing, my friend. I don't know how to swim. I'll wade and I'll go up to my neck, but swimming, I'd be on the bottom of Lake Chickamauga in the Tennessee River and wouldn't be coming back up. So I can do two parts of it.
It'll be an interesting video.
Yeah, all right. You and the rest of my staff here, Keon Rose and Nick LaFew of the sports department, yeah, they were laughing their rear ends off just at the thought of me riding a bike. First time in over 20 years. So, right now from inside FredSmith.com with us here on the phone and
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
In Oak Ridge, police say a woman in a wheelchair was carjacked. It happened Saturday in a parking lot. Carjacker crashed the car at an intersection, had to be taken to the hospital. His identity and condition are not disclosed by authorities. Criminal charges are reportedly pending. A Lafayette woman issued an apology after she was accused of stealing from a charity jar at a MAPCO. Shannon Barrett turned herself in after her face was plastered all over TV and social media. She didn't remember stealing the money from the donation jar because she was intoxicated at the time. And a man who previously served a 186-month federal prison sentence on a drug conviction was reportedly caught again, this time transporting 8 ounces of meth. Kenneth Cowboy Schwartz told DEA agents after his arrest on Friday that he has been selling drugs all of his life. Val St. John for Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nuga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Chattanooga weather. Isolated showers quickly diminishing through your nighttime. Warm, muggy overnight. Lows into the lower 70s. For Wednesday, scattered afternoon showers and storms more likely. Some of those could be quite strong. Highs 88 to 90. Only isolated afternoon storms Thursday. Hot highs 90 to 92. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Source E12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
I got my business up and running, and it's already expanding. I got lucky. Lucky because I found Signal Voice and Data. Signal Voice and Data can incorporate all of my business information sharing and communications seamlessly, keep my costs down, and let me work more productively with endless connectivity no matter where I might be. That's called working smart, not hard. Go to signalvoicetn.com and bring the future of communication to your business today. signalvoicetn.com.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty-bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. They have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. Hey, girls, you're going to love this. We're going to the knife shop.
Hey, let's not tell them they have ammo and loading supplies.
The knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives. You're going to love the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. The knife shop.
And tell them David Toulis sent you.
Do you hear that? That, my friend, is not what you're thinking. That is the new 2018 Indian Chieftain Dark Horse. Yeah, Indian. Indian motorcycle is more than a bike. It's an experience, an American icon. And Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga is the only place you'll find their new 2018 line. Are you ready to ride? Join the club. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign, 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Hey, Karen, you need me for that 1 o'clock?
Yes, Cheese, please. Karen, did you get the quarterlies done?
Yep, they're filed in the cabinet.
Karen, can you describe the initiatives to the new hire? Thanks.
Oh, sure. Full-bodied, some floral notes, maybe a hint of dark chocolate.
Am I in the right department?
Got wine on the mind? Come unwind at Virgola. Italian wine, oysters, caviar, cheeses, and more. Perfect after work or a romantic date night. Virgola Italian Wine Bar, 608 Georgia Avenue.
Chattanooga Paint and Decorating would like to remind you it's so hot out there. And guess what? Your deck is taking a beating. It's probably starting to show wear. If you're hosting friends for the 4th, get your deck entertainment ready with a fresh coat of stain and protect it from heat, sun, and rain with a quality sealant. If you want to get to work, Chattanooga Paint and Decorating want to help you. For exterior paint, stains, sealants, and supplies, stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today on Hicks and Pike across from Valvoline or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Nuga Radio. Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nuga Radio. It's the moment you've been waiting for. Sam Jordan's Nuga Radio, 92.7 Sports, now.
You can catch us on Facebook Live and also on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, my good friend Keon Rose is right behind me. He's the light man right now. We'll make fun of him. But right now I've got on the phone our good friend Nick LaFew from the Saturday morning program, The Breakfast Blitz with Nick LaFew. Good evening, my friend.
Good evening, Sam, and Keon in the background out here back there.
Yeah, Keon is the light man and trying to adjust some of our camera lighting here in the studio for our YouTube and Facebook Live viewers out there. And, you know, I know how much you are into UT sports. I mean, that's an understatement. But evidently, Coach Jeremy Pruitt is just changing things up in every sense of the word of change. He's gotten rid of the longtime doctors for the football team. He's relieved 2 of the doctors of their duties. Doctors Greg Mathien and Russell Betcher, Betcher, were informed late last week that their services as team doctors for UT's football program will be coming to a close. Now, evidently, they've been up there for a long time prior to Philip Fulmer becoming the head football coach. So, you know, Pruitt seems like he wants to make his mark on everything involving that football program. What's your thoughts?
I mean, to say I'm surprised is I'm not. Jeremy has come in, he's changed everything up from the get-go, and he's had the full support of Philip Fulmer. So I think it doesn't surprise me. I mean, if you look at the injuries that UT's had over the last few years and the fact they can't keep guys healthy and keep them on the field, you know, maybe it is time to move on and get some more, some new blood in there and go with more modern sports medicine practices. I know Pruitt's been with different coaches like Nick Saban and like Jimbo Fisher. And Mark Richt, who are always in the forefront of changing things and trying to do new things. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Craig Fitzgerald, the strength and conditioning coach, had something to do with that as well.
Well, you know, here's my question. Fulmer came to UT, what, mid-90s?
He took over. He was offensive coordinator in '92 when Johnny Majors had a heart attack.
Right.
Took over at that point, and went on from there. But yeah, so early '90s. I mean, that means those guys have been there a while. Majors may have brought them in the early '80s when he got there.
Yeah. Well, it says here, according to the release, that both Mathien arrived at UT 2 years before Fulmer was promoted to full-time head coach, and Betcher, you know, has been there for many, many years, I guess, coming after Mathien, but they've been there through the entire Fulmer era and have been with UT ever since. So, I mean, they went through numerous coaches. I mean, we're talking quite a long time, you know, over 20 years, and it's hard to make that sort of a change. And evidently the medical community within Knoxville aren't too thrilled with the move. One anonymous source called the decision to relieve Mathien and Betcher a travesty, while another stated the situation is just messed up. So, Matthew A. Rappy and Robert E. Ivy are the new doctors for the football team. To our listeners out there, not my listeners, our listeners, it's sort of a big thing. I mean, because like you said, some traditional practices may have changed, as far as with sports medicine. Maybe they've kind of fell behind the curve, with this, transition and stuff. And maybe this is probably an opportune time to make that change across the board in a full slate cleanup.
Yeah, I think, anytime if you're going to make these kinds of changes, you might as well do it while you have a new coach and a fresh start. I mean, Jeremy Pruitt's proven that he's willing to clean house. I mean, you don't look at just the offense, or the team, like the staff, the coaching staff. Obviously, a new coach is going to bring in his own coaching staff, but it's pretty impressive what Pruitt's done. I mean, you look at football operations. Now the medical department, I mean, he's changed everything. But I mean, obviously something's not working. I mean, you went 4-8 for the first time ever. You lost 8 games for the first time ever as a school. I mean, maybe things need to change. I mean, you look at over the last 2 or 3 years, and a lot of it has to do with strength and conditioning too. But I mean, the guys couldn't stay on the field. I mean, you're talking about freak injuries with ankles and knees and shoulders, things that, maybe it is time to change some things up and get more, like I said, new blood in there, guys who know these new sports medicine practices that maybe these older guys don't know.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not this worked. Or not, with the medical team that's there in Knoxville, but it will be interesting to see. And, if it doesn't work, well, why did you do that? It just made it worse, kind of thing.
I don't think it's anything you can judge after 1 year. Anything when you're changing strength and conditioning and you change things in the medical department, you ask anybody in football in the know, it takes at least 2 years to see any change. You're not going to see a huge change in these athletes, strength and conditioning wise, this year. You're going to see improvement, I think. I think Craig Fitzgerald is obviously well known around the football community as a great strength and conditioning coach. So you may see some improvement. But even Rock Gullickson, who is also considered, a very good strength and conditioning coach in football communities, had 1 year under Butch Jones this past year. You're not going to see a lot of improvement after 1 year. So you're going to have to be patient with these kind of changes to really see if it's going to be able to, reap some benefit.
Well, I know this is something that you will probably talk about on Saturday. I mean, the recruiting game just seems like it keeps getting more interesting. And we're talking 2020 already with the recruiting battles that are going on. UT seems like they're right in the thick of things with trying to get more recruits for 2019 and even now with 2020.
I mean, they did. They had a big recruiting weekend. We were going to talk about this a little bit on Saturday, so I'll kind of tease it a little bit. But Tennessee had a big recruiting weekend on this past weekend. It was the last, real big one before the dead period, and they got a commitment out of a 3-star defensive end linebacker hybrid, and out of Starkville, Mississippi, and Pruitt's doing a good job. I don't think anybody doubted his recruiting ability and this staff's recruiting ability. They've been able to do that, and they've done that anywhere they've gone. So I don't think anybody's doubting that, but it's nice to see Tennessee going after guys that fit their scheme now instead of just star chasing like what Butch Jones would do, and go get guys who were injured their senior year or whatever when other people weren't, on them anymore because he just wanted those stars. He wanted those 4-star guys. He wanted those 5-star guys, and then they didn't pan out because they weren't healthy.
Well, and it also looks like they may have a real big recruit coming for that class of 2020 at quarterback. And then we also learned here over the weekend that Garantano may be the number one starter at the quarterback slot to try to get through this season and possibly next. Keller Christ may see a little bit more of a backup role.
Yeah, I think you'll know a lot more once fall camp starts here in about a month and a half. With that, I think the problem with saying that Garantano's the guy right now is that that's the only guy the staff's really seen. And that's no disrespect to Will McBride or J.T. Shrout, the freshman out of California. But let's be real, this job's between Keller Christ and Jared Garantano. And if Garantano continues to improve like he did in the spring into the fall, then yeah, I think you have an opportunity to start him. I just don't think Pruitt really knew what he had with Garantano because, Butch, talk about mismanaging a position. Butch Jones didn't mismanage any position worse than he did quarterback in his 5 years at Tennessee. I don't know. I'm going to leave that up in the air until I see what happens week one. I won't believe a starter until I see either 2 trot out or whatever number Chris is going to wear at UT, and I'll see whoever trots out in Charlotte on September 1st.
It will definitely be interesting, but don't forget, listeners out there, to check out the Breakfast Blitz with Nick LaFew and friends every Saturday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. And, of course, you get your fill of UT sports and also talking about various other sporting stories that are going on out there. And it's like Magic Johnson, made a bold statement earlier today that, it's going to take 2 years to get the Lakers turned around. That could be with LeBron James, could be with Paul George. But if he can't make it happen within those 2 years, then he'll step down. You feel like that's a bold statement?
No. It is bold, but, that's what Magic does, man. I feel like Magic will have them turned around. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the playoffs this year, whether they have LeBron or not. Luke Walton's a good young coach. I like the talent there. I like Kyle Kuzma a lot. I like Lonzo Ball a lot if he could ever learn how to shoot.
And if his dad could ever just shut up.
Well, I think his dad's about to start shutting up because he's realized he's ruined one of his kids' careers and he might ruin another one if he's not careful. Luckily, Lonzo got in there before he started opening his big mouth.
Right.
I don't think anybody likes LeVar Ball, so I just hope they don't take it out on Lonzo and LaMelo going forward because I think both those kids are really good ball players. I'm excited for the Lakers as a guy who grew up as a Lakers fan because his dad was one, and I grew up watching Kobe. The NBA is a lot better when the Lakers are good, and if anybody can fix the Lakers, it's going to be Magic Johnson.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really thought that Larry Bird would have gotten back in with the Celtics and tried to help them get turned around. But, he's got his hands full there in Indiana, so we'll see what happens with that. But Nick LaFew joining us here on the Locker Room Show. And like we said, Nick will be back with us on Thursday night because we'll be talking with Nick and with Grant talking about the SEC and how things are shaping up for football as we head in to the, the summer workouts and everything and getting ready for the fall. So it'll be interesting to talk about that as well. Thanks for joining us, Nick.
Anytime, Sam.
All right. And the Locker Room Show continues here on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. And we encourage you can call in at 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949. You can also comment on Facebook Live at Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. We're also being live streamed on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube as well. And don't forget, coming up at 8 o'clock, right after CBS World and National News and a Nooga Radio News update with Russ and Val, tune in with my good friend, Keon Rose. The Clutch, every weeknight, Monday through Thursday, from 8 to 9. Well, Thursday, I guess, Now, that's two millennials talking, unlike the boss's name for the show. We won't go into that. But it's two millennials talking. You can catch them on Thursday nights, Russ and Keon, or Keon and Russ, whichever you want to look at. But I think it ought to be Keon and Russ, but it's just my opinion. While we're talking football, with UT, one of our local area athletes made a commitment to going to college. And Red Bank's Calvin Jackson, who helped the Lions reach the 2017 Class AAA football semifinals, verbally committed to Wofford College this morning, and celebrated by heading off to Florida with his family for a vacation and not looking back. He and his teammates at Red Bank defeated Loudon to capture the Region 3 Class AAA championship last season, and then knocked off Sequatchie County, York Institute, and Smith County to reach the state Class 3A semifinals, where the Lions fell to eventual state champion Alcoa 34-0. And that was, pardon me, a very good ball game. But Alcoa just outmanned them and definitely outscored them. He piled up 1,070 yards, 12 touchdowns as a wide receiver, rushed for 870 yards with 20 touchdowns, returned one kickoff for a score, while leading the Lions to an 11-3 record last season. But, Jackson has had several weeks and, probably a couple of months of trying to figure out where he wants to go. First four offers came in from Appalachian State, East Tennessee State, Indiana State, and Wofford. And, he really liked the campus over at Wofford. So he's going to be making his home for hopefully 4 years over at Wofford. And we'll get to come back, I'm sure, at least 2 of those years when Wofford takes on Chattanooga in football because of being Southern Conference, rivals. And Wofford's actually had a pretty good football program over the last several years, but the Mocs, don't count them out either. They could pull up the surprise here, even against some of its own homegrown talent that's in the area. Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. Want to remind you there's a severe thunderstorm warning out for Hamilton, Marion, Ray, Meigs, McMinn County, most of the counties that are here in the southeastern part of the state. So make sure that you keep tuning in to Nooga Radio 92.7 FM for the latest weather information as it is warranted. And we'll keep you up to date with all that with Patrick Core and the Nooga Radio Weather Center updates throughout the evening and overnight hours. Just really some weird, freaky weather that we've had here over the last several days. So, never thought I would be seeing this much activity. I guess, I'm used to snow and mild temperatures in the summertime, but here in Chattanooga, it's been very muggy and very unpredictable as far as with the thunderstorms and the torrential downpours that we've seen. One more football note. First annual Chattanooga Youth Football Jamboree is going to be slated for August the 18th. That will be open to ages 5 through 12. They'll have different categories, 5 through 6 years of age, 7 years of age, 8, 9, 10, and then another division for 11 and 12-year-olds. Entry is free. And if you'd like to find out more information on how your child can be a part of that and to enter, you can contact Edmund at 423-227-8494 or email baulding3@aol.com. That's balding3@aol.com. baulding3@aol.com. So our youth getting an opportunity to participate in football prior to the start of the school year, and that's great to keep our kids interested in sports. So be a great thing. Still got time for you to call in at 423-800-8949, 423-800-8949. And the Chattanooga Lookouts had a early game today. It was the final game of their series with the Biloxi Shuckers on Wednesday. The walk-off 5-4 victory from a base hit that the Lookouts got, and the victory snapped a 4-game losing streak that they had been experiencing. Now Chattanooga heads to Tennessee to take on the Smokies. 6 games beginning on Thursday. So Lewis Thorpe, left-handed pitcher, 22-year-old, threw an impressive start in this contest, which he fanned 12 batters by going 5 2/3 innings, giving up 1 run and striking out 7 batters. So the Lookouts really needed that game to kind of get out of that tailspin that they've been experiencing and trying to get back into the thick of things with Mobile and the rest of the contingent in the Southern League. And the Lookouts had been up there in first place for quite some time and then just kind of ran into some buzzsaws with Mobile and other teams. So now maybe they can try to right the ship there with the Tennessee Smokies coming up here on Thursday. Thanks for joining us here on the Locker Room Show. My good buddy Phil is coming up here after the